Okay, it is now 11:31. I am sure that we will have additional participants join the webinar, but to be respectful of everyone's time, we'll go ahead and kick it off here. So first of all, good morning and good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to the 7th installment of the Memphis World Trade Club Virtual Luncheon Series. My name is Daniel Booth, and I'm the first Vice President of the Memphis World Trade Club in 2020. I'll be your host today. And today we have a really special guest with Cliff Pyron, who serves as the Chief Commercial Officer at the Georgia Ports Authority, who will be giving us really exciting updates about the Port of Savannah and the Mason Mega Rail. Before we get started, I'd like to share a few housekeeping notes and announcements. So first thing, with respect to the technology, just know that we're on the Zoom technology, and if for any reason any of our panelists lose connectivity, please do hang around a few minutes because we'll give that panelist a chance to log back in, and we'll continue the webinar like nothing happened. And I bring it up because this actually happened last month on our webinar with our presenter, and he was able to log back on, and we continued and had a really great session. So if that does happen, please hang around. Related to Memphis World Trade Club announcements, the first thing I'd like to tell you about is our membership drive. We have a lot of non-members today that are on, and we welcome you all, and we're so glad to have you. The Memphis World Trade Club was established in 1947 to provide excellent educational and networking opportunities for people in the global supply chain and logistics industry and world trade. So please do take advantage of our membership drive, which we are extending through this Friday, November 20th, and take advantage of those discounts so you can become a member of this great networking organization. Next week, starting Monday, November 23rd, we will be firing up another scholarship raffle, and the prize will be a $300 spa package at your local spa. And this will go towards our Nail Ball Scholarship Fund, which supports students at the Memphis East High School T-STEM program. So please participate in the raffle, and even if you don't win, just know that your dollars are going towards a great cause at the scholarship. So please be on the lookout on our website, as well as additional email announcements from that. So during our presentation today, feel free to ask questions of Cliff and Michael. You can ask a question in the chat, and we'll be able to see those questions, and we will proctor as many of those questions as possible during the presentation. So at this time, I would like to invite another special guest and a previous speaker at the Memphis World Trade Club, Michael Simonanis, who serves as the Global Director of the Global Container Logistics Group at the Louis Dreyfus Companies. So Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you at this time, and the floor is yours.
I appreciate it. Well, good morning or good afternoon again, everybody. Just a quick thank you for being here. Clearly, what we do in the Mid-South is also dependent upon, especially in international trade, on our ability to connect in the broader network. And there's been really no greater friend to the Mid-South than the team at GPA from my perspective in the cotton industry, right? They've been very involved in what we do historically, and people on Cliff's team. We're very fortunate to have Cliff here today. And so I'll give you a brief background on him, and then he'll kind of go into all that they've been focusing on. But Memphis has an important role in the long-term plans of what GPA is working on. And I'll leave it at that and let Cliff get into it later. But again, definitely want to welcome Cliff Pyron, Chief Commercial Officer, Georgia Port Authority. So Cliff is responsible for providing strategic leadership of the Georgia Port Authority's business development and trade development. His principal accountability being to develop all commercial activities to sustain long-term profitable growth and market share leadership. And this includes sales, marketing, economic development, customer service, and agency-related activities. With a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from East Carolina University, Cliff has more than 40 years experience in liner container shipping, logistics, and the port sector of the maritime industry. Prior to his appointment to GPA in 2008, he served as Vice President Sales for NYK Line, North America, in Secaucus, New Jersey. Cliff has also previously worked for Maersk Sealand as Vice President Sales, Southeast Region, and was with the organization for 19 years, including 5 in Hong Kong with Sea Land Service as General Manager, Hong Kong and South China. He's had various liner logistics, operational, and marketing logistics capacities. And in his role at GPA, he's had an active role in participating in industry organizations that touch beyond Memphis, like AgTC, and he and members of his team have been, active in terms of supporting the mission of what you and I and everybody that's involved in international container trade, whether it's import or export, are involved with. I'd like to turn it over to Cliff and go through some exciting things that are going on at the Georgia Port Authority.
Okay. Well, thank you for the introduction, Mike, and Daniel, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to address the group. It's been a number of years since I've addressed the Memphis World Trade Club at the luncheons that you all had in the past, pre-COVID years. But anyway, it's again, it's great to be here. Memphis is so important to the Georgia Ports Authority that we actually featured it in our recent State of the Port address. And I think first that we're going to go to a video that's going to capture that, and then I'll begin some of my remarks after that.
Here we are now at the Georgia Ports Authority Mason Mega Rail on the Garden City Terminal. We've heard a lot about the Mega Rail over the years as we build it. You've seen it on paper, but now we're here to show it to you in real life. So the Mega Rail's coming along. We're building 85,000 feet of track. As you can see, the new track being laid and a brand new overpass for the trains to pass under. And as we come over, you'll see the chassis yard on the left side with more track to be laid for the S-turn. We pass over Route 307, and then we make the turn. And on the turn, you'll see on the left side the brand new bundle of 9 tracks with 2 rail-mounted gantry cranes. It is fully operational as of last month. And on the right side, the construction is now happening to bring the second bundle of 9 tracks operational. At the end of the day, folks, what we're talking about here is we'll be able to handle 6 10,000-foot trains simultaneously. And I'm so pleased to tell you that we have with us 3 special guests. First, I want to introduce Mike Simonanis, who's with Allenberg Hut. Mike, you're a director of freight there. You oversee all international domestic freight at Allenberg. We've also got Cliff Pyron, the Chief Commercial Officer for the Georgia Ports Authority. Cliff, thank you for being here with us. And finally, our Chief Operations Officer, Ed McCarthy, who's been with the Georgia Ports now almost 5 years. So Mike, let's kick it off with you. I know that you're also the voice of Memphis. What have you seen in your time as far as the connection of Savannah to Memphis? Is it improving? Are we competing on a cost basis? How are we doing?
Over the last number of years, as you guys have made these investments, we see more cargo coming in, which gives us equipment availability in Memphis. And again, cotton as a crop is both local, right? Georgia's the second biggest producing state in the nation right now. And then the 4 states of the Mid-South, so Arkansas, West Tennessee, Missouri, and Mississippi, it's an important growing area. So we're connecting to GPA intermodally, and those connections have become more certain. There's been more options available. The East Coast is a natural gateway to a number of markets. Turkey, the Indian subcontinent, Latin America, and as the services have gotten faster to China or direct service to South Vietnam, those are key markets for us. And so the transit time difference, where a customer may have not been willing to wait 14 to 21 days in the old days, as the services have gotten faster from Savannah to the foreign market, it's allowing this to be another option as well, right? For the stuff that's the not traditional gateway for the East Coast port. We're gonna naturally go where the capacity, equipment availability, vessel spaces to serve our customers. We're not looking to compete both coasts against each other, but there's a lot of inherent advantages in Georgia and through the Port of Savannah that allows us to kind of move our crop specifically through the Southeast and through you guys.
Cliff, Mike talked a lot about the export side. Why don't you tell us what's happening from a GPA perspective and growth to Memphis and what you're seeing on the imports?
Well, it's been exciting growth at the Georgia Ports Authority. Intermodal has been our fastest growing market, and Memphis has been the fastest growing of those intermodal markets. So over 43% in the last 3 years, but it just continues to explode for us going into Memphis particularly. So we are very excited with this mega rail product and the value that it's going to bring to the Georgia Ports Authority.
So Cliff, On any given year, as you know, we're running at about 18 to 20%. Rail is running 18 to 20% of marine lifts. Where do you see us going over the next 5 years, given the mega rail coming online?
I think really we're forecasting within 5 years, it would probably be between 25 to 27% of our lift. So as we continue to go through our gateway here, our intermodal lift is going to continue to outpace our other growth here through the port. So it is an exciting time.
So Ed, that's a lot of lifts. Can you handle it?
He doesn't concern me at all. Absolutely, we can handle it. The beauty of this project is these 9 tracks, between the 2 bundles, we'll be able to handle 6 10,000-foot long trains. That's over 12 miles of rail track being loaded and unloaded every single day. Get unit trains out to Memphis, Chicago, St. Louis. We're already doing it to Atlanta. So yes, we can absolutely handle it.
No, that's great. When Ed McCarthy started with us a couple of years back, he looked at our time to connect from ship to rail, and we were in that, let's call it 48-hour range. And Ed said, we're going to be world-class. We're going to get it to 24 hours. And I'm proud to say, Ed, under your leadership, we've done that.
The first thing that we did was recognize that coming off the vessel, the containers just were not reaching the rail timely enough. And the team really brainstormed some efficiency ideas on how to work it through the stacks. We've worked with some of our ocean carriers on block stowing on the vessel. So a lot of those partnership aspects has been tremendous.
The ability to connect to the vessel more consistently, more reliably out of the interior, I think just improves the value proposition over the long term. Having a strategic vision that extends beyond the state your port's in to really look at the network and how you can connect with your customers further away is a visionary way to look at things that is really going to be beneficial for the shipping community in the United States.
Well, guys, we could have picked a better day with a little overcast, but you're all looking more colorful than you looked before we started, and I want to appreciate that we appreciate the Savannah sun here. Mike, thank you so much for making the time to come join us at Georgia Ports, and Cliff and Ed, thank you also for the great comments you've made.
Okay, well, that's the video. I hope it came across clearly to everyone that's on this session here today. But really, the theme of this thing is really Memphis and Savannah are growing on parallel tracks. The exploding rail trade has just been phenomenal. And really, what we're building at the Mason Mega Rail is only going to accelerate that growth. As the Mega Rail doubles our capacity and size, it just really increases that capacity for trade growth with Memphis. So this session is really going to explore the nature of the growing trade relationship and the emphasis on rail. So that's what we're going to really be focusing on here today. So put simply, Memphis has become a huge market for Savannah. Memphis growth tracks Savannah and vice versa. So there's really a strategic interdependence that's been taking place as we see it at the Georgia Ports Authority. So there's a common thread. Imports and exports are really going to migrate more and more to rail. So now I'm going to go to the screen and share the PowerPoint and get into it, and look forward, probably be about 20 minutes long, and then look forward to any questions you may have afterward. Okay, so hopefully everyone can hear me now. So again, thanks again for having me today. Memphis is our fastest growing intermodal market. Oops, wait a minute. I'm seeing. Okay, there we go. Apologies. Memphis is
no
our
worries,
fastest
and we
growing.
can see you perfectly, Cliff. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
All right, good. So Memphis is our fastest growing intermodal center. Atlanta is still our largest, but Memphis has been our fastest growing as well as our number 2. So FedEx is part of the story of that growth. It gave birth to the focus on the intermodal hub in the Midwest. Memphis, as everyone on this call knows, is in the top 5 U.S. intermodal markets according to Supply Chain Magazine. Again, that's no surprise to anyone here. Go next. The Port of Savannah, for those of you that may not know, we're actually the largest U.S. export port in the United States now. That took place this past spring, we surpassed the port of LA being the #1 export port. We are also the largest agricultural export port in the United States as well, and the largest cotton exporter. So it's been just tremendous. Cotton is important because Memphis is really the gateway for the Mid-South cotton growing region, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, West Tennessee, etc. On the import side, we can see that shippers are bringing more and more imports into Memphis from the West Coast, especially. We're seeing that whole shift from that Southern California gateway to coming to our gateway. So the shift is really creating a much more well-balanced trade. Again, the importance of Memphis for us, you can see second largest intermodal market, as I mentioned, after Atlanta. 42% of our intermodal exports from Savannah originate in Memphis. So 1 out of every 5 intermodal containers that we are handling at the GPA are going either to or from Memphis. So it's just really, it's as a rail origin, it's just, it's growing faster than Atlanta. And it's, we see a lot of it. In fact, more loads are coming out of the Memphis area than even Atlanta. Even though Atlanta's a bigger market, we're seeing the flushing out of a lot of empties out of the Atlanta market, but more loaded exports are coming from Memphis. So really heartened and happy to see that. So Savannah has been the largest gateway for Tennessee for quite a while during FY20. In fact, just a real quick anecdote. Our Georgia delegation was up in DC a while back, and our executive director, Griff Lynch, who you saw on the video, they went by Senator Alexander's office, and Senator Alexander goes, "To what do I owe the pleasure of this visit here?" And we basically said, in fact, including some of our board members, that the Port of Savannah is really the port for Tennessee. So again, we are that largest port gateway for Tennessee in general. So recent Memphis Savannah trade growth, just a couple of quick facts. 43% over the past 3 years, 25% over the past 3 months during the pandemic. And in the month of October, 35% growth. So it's been incredible. I won't go through all the numbers there. They're actually, they might be detailed out in the PowerPoint that can be shared afterward, but just tremendous growth and positive intermodal trade balance over the last 3 months too, with 52% export and 48% imports going into Memphis. So really a well-balanced trade. So looking at trade for October 2020, again, that 35%, the loaded exports from Memphis by rail to Savannah grew by 38% in October. Loaded import containers destined for Memphis grew by 32% in October. So just really to put that all in perspective, our overall growth at the port in October was 8%, which was really phenomenal when you look at all the other port gateways in the United States, and our intermodal growth was up even way more than that. Memphis,
yeah. If I could stop you,
sure.
We have a couple of questions. We have from Scott Sigmund. Are these growth rates year over year or month on month? I think it's a combination.
Year over year.
Okay. And I know for me personally, Cliff, these, after being in the business and the freight forwarding business in the Memphis area for a while, and a lot of our members of the Memphis Rail Trade Club, I think to see these statistics, 42% of all exports through Savannah originate in Memphis, and just the growth numbers involved. What do you attribute the growth to? I know that Michael, earlier mentioned reliability is a big reliability and capacity. So what do you think is contributing to all this growth between Memphis and Savannah?
Well, those are great questions, and those are things that we'll get into as we continue to go through the presentation here. But it's in part the focus that we've had on intermodal, the way that we are getting really just outstanding service from the 2 Class 1 East Coast railroads that we partner with Norfolk Southern and CSX, who, by the way, are both on dock, on terminal, as you saw from the video. So it's really a unique product that we have. And today we're basically doing 3-day service to Memphis and from Memphis. So again, very consistent. And that's really what the supply chains are looking for. They're looking for that consistency, that reliability, that predictability, because that has real value to the supply chain. So that's why we continue to see the migration, especially in that trans-Pacific trade from the Southern California gateway to the port of Savannah here. But if you look at this slide that I'm showing right now, you can see what the major commodities are going into Memphis and what's coming out of Memphis. So auto parts, electronics, furniture, apparel, footwear going into the Memphis area, among other commodities. And on the export side, obviously cotton being the biggest, logs and lumber, chemicals, machinery, and other agricultural products as well. So again, those have really been the primary imports and exports going through our joint gateways here. You know, what's interesting here, I think, for the viewing audience is you look at the top 10 container ports. Again, just talking strictly containers. So if you look at the top 10 container ports in the United States, and you look at what the growth has been over the last 15 years, and you'll see at the top of this, we use FY. Now that's fiscal year. We'll do calendar year comparisons, but our fiscal year just ended. It closed in June, so it's a July 1 through June 30 fiscal calendar for the Georgia ports. These are the top 10 gateways. You can see LA and Long Beach. They are two separate ports, of course, for those 11 terminals, just separated by a bridge, but one gateway there in Southern California. Then the Port of New York, New Jersey, number 2, and Savannah at number 3. It's interesting, you look at all these cities here. Well, Savannah is a city of only about 300,000 in terms of the population, whereas the other port gateways are serving populations in the millions. So I think it really bespeaks to the fact that Savannah is recognized by Trade and Commerce as being a strategic gateway. And as you can see, that growth has been phenomenal over the last 15 years, growing on a compounded annual growth rate basis of 6.4% per year. That's even been more accelerated since the Panama Canal expansion was completed in June of 2016. So you are going to continue to see the East Coast ports and the Gulf ports. You're going to continue to see that percentage of growth really rise, continue to rise rapidly, since you can get the 15,000 TEU ships through the Panama Canal now. Next, largest single container terminal in the Western Hemisphere. So at 1,345 acres, this is a big deal for Trade and Commerce, because scale really matters in the scheme of things. There's a lot of transportation synergies that are derived by being big and being efficient. And we're going to take a look at a little bit of that too, and why that matters for the Memphis market. This is a quick snapshot of just the East Coast market shares of all the major ports. New York, New Jersey leading at 30.6 and Savannah at 21.7. But it looks at what that growth was in the last 2 years, what that comparison has been with those major U.S. East Coast port gateways. And I'm not including every East Coast port, of course, but it just looks at what that growth is. So we continue to be growing in market share, and we continue to see that shift from the West Coast ports to the East Coast ports. Also, the Memphis has been really a key factor in Savannah's growing market share, as evidenced by some of the numbers that I had shared before. This looks at all the U.S. East Coast ports and how many weekly services that they have going, in and out of their ports and harbors. And you can see that we're at 37 services a week. That's weekly services, just one less than the Port of New York, New Jersey. And I want you to keep this number 37 in mind, because it's very, very important. I'm going to go through a couple of 37s here. The Port of Savannah is now the 37th largest container port in the world now, and has continued to rise. So we're at number 37 in the world now, and then we have 37 weekly calls a week. And then when you look at this UN slide that I'm showing now, if you look at this, and I'll explain it, you'll see that Savannah is ranked number 37 in the world. This is a study that was done by the UN that looks at that at global connectivity. So only the Port of New York, New Jersey at number 36, one better than the Port of Savannah here. Really what this says is that we are better connected. We service more global trade lanes than any other port in the United States other than the Port of New York. You can see that LA at number 66, Long Beach at 79, etc. So again, just having those that ability to be able to service the Memphis market, the customers going into the Memphis area or coming out of that area anywhere in the globe. So more ship services means more destinations, flexibility for shippers. Again, what's going on with our harbor, a little bit on our deepening. We're 76% complete on the deepening of the harbor. It's going to be completed by the end of calendar year 21. So by deepening to 47 feet in the channel and 48 feet outside of our channel is going to allow for those 15,000 TEU vessels to be able to come in without the draft restrictions that we currently have. So it's going to allow for even more exports to go out of here. And we, as I explained initially, we're already the #1 export port in the United States anyway. And I also mentioned, if you look at this slide that you're looking at, we're actually the westernmost East Coast port in the United States. So if you really think about it, if you looked at a detailed map of the United States, we're actually south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So if the next thing that you're thinking is, well, so what? What does that mean? It just means in terms of highway miles and rail miles to all the major metropolitan areas in the Southeast and the Mid-South, we're just that much closer. Thus, it's more efficient, it's more cost effective. So logistics is always like the flow of water. It's always going to take its easiest, most efficient course, and we have become that natural gateway for trade and commerce. You really think about this as you're looking at this slide now, the capital investment. This has really been the secret sauce of the Georgia ports for the 12 years that I've been here and well before that too. We don't receive any subsidies from the state of Georgia. We are expected to operate and act like a private enterprise for profit, but we are expected to return 100% of those profits back into our 5 port products that we have here in the state of Georgia. So again, we are owned by the state of Georgia, but we are not state of Georgia employees. So we have just been aggressively reinvesting back into our ports and to our terminal products for a long time. Over the last 10 years, we've reinvested $1 billion, and the CapEx over the next 12 years is going to be at about $3.2 billion, which is going to include a new deepwater terminal as well. We're going to spend $155 million alone here in our fiscal year 21, which we're in now. So rail is really a key part of that investment strategy. So Savannah constantly invests in infrastructure to keep capacity 20% ahead of demand. So that's really important, especially with everything that's going on now with this unprecedented surge in imports. And I've been in shipping and international logistics for over 40 years. I've never seen an import peak like this in my life. So the good news is Savannah is handling and can handle this demand without bottlenecks because we have made the investments in capacity over the years to make sure that we can stay ahead of the curve. The mega rail, which we talked about before and that you saw the video on. This is just really a key part of our strategy at the GPA. It's now operational. After phase 2 is finished in October 2021, it's going to be able to double our rail lift capacity to over 2 million TEUs or over 1.2 million intermodal lifts. So there's simply not going to be anything like it on either the East Coast or the West Coast. It will be the largest on-dock intermodal rail facility of any port in North America. So this is a big deal for trade and commerce. I would respectfully submit to everyone here today. We're spending over $225 million on this investment. We did receive a $44 million MARAD DOT grant to help offset the cost of this. So it was really definitely very much appreciated with the support of MARAD. So there's going to be, as Griff had mentioned on the video, 18 working tracks, and we'll be able to work 6 10,000 foot or 2-mile trains at the same time. So it's going to be phenomenal what this scale is going to allow us to do and to be able to reach other markets more efficiently. This is our part of what we call our Mid-America ARC program, that the Port of Savannah can now reach every inland market. And as we continue to grow, places like Dallas, we are serving more and more to Dallas as well, that I don't even have on the slide here. But Atlanta and then Memphis is our number 2 and fastest growing, but we have the ability to reach all these markets very, very efficiently. So rail today, as Griff had mentioned in the video, is between 19.5% to 21%, closer to 21% right now of our total trade. Within the next 5 years, I expect this to be between 25 to 27%. I'd like it to be even higher than that, but I think that 25 to 27% of total lift is very, very doable. I talked about the capacity for the unit trains. It increases our ability to reach in the Midwest, working with the Class 1s, Norfolk Southern and CSX, to be able to densify. You know, it's really important, especially with e-commerce right now, the whole focus on e-commerce, omni-channel. It's been surging during the pandemic. Population centers are usually the #1 choice for e-commerce warehouses, but high population regions are also increasingly in demand. And this is where Savannah just continues to shine, because we have the infrastructure capacity to be able to handle the growth. So again, just very, very, very exciting for us. I am going to try to stop that and go back to the video. Memphis is a key part of our strategy, and that's why I'm here today. The expanded use of the mega rail really improves our ability to connect to and from Memphis. It's just very, very exciting. So what this means to consumers and retailers, in addition to speed the market, it's going to bring better pricing and more efficiency. So intermodal is Savannah's fastest growing market segment, and Memphis is the fastest growing segment of that market. So in sum, the way that we see it here at the Georgia Ports Authority, Savannah and Memphis have become strategic logistic partners. And most of the things that make Memphis and Savannah strong complement each other. And it's going to make us together even stronger. So as I began the remarks saying that we are following parallel tracks, I just want to reiterate as we close, just say, hey, we are on parallel tracks with Memphis. So I really appreciate everyone's time here today, and open up to any questions. Thank you.
Cliff, thanks so much. That was great. We do have a couple of questions here. One from Trini Williams, and I think you touched on a little bit of this already, but maybe you can provide some more color. They asked, what and where, including location, are expansion plans for Savannah in the Memphis area? What and where, including location, are expansion plans for Savannah in the Memphis area? So I think you touched on a little bit of it already, but maybe you can add a little more color.
Well, we've actually put our own boots on the ground out in Memphis too. We have a Georgia Ports Authority colleague by the name of Brian Bellin, and hopefully a few people in this audience have had the chance to meet and get to know Brian. But that's how important we see this Memphis market, that the Georgia Ports Authority, a port authority, is putting people out, you know, in the regions where it's important for us. We have people out in Georgia. We're talking about eventually putting someone out in the Chicago area. So again, that kind of commitment to these markets is really key for us to partner with the railroads to ensure that those trains are getting pushed out, or we're pulling those trains in efficiently.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have one more from Trini Williams, Cliff. It's, which major suppliers, clients, and customers are part of the Savannah transport?
Well, on the export side, it's folks like LDC, Allenberg, Cotton. You know, again on the exports, and again there's many others, but just by way of example there. And on the import side, a lot of furniture folks like WSI, and footwear BCO clients like Nike and others. So just continue to see that growth, both furniture, apparel, footwear, and on the export side, cotton, machinery, agriculture products, logs and lumber, etc.
Okay. We have another one from Scott Sigmund. He says that Savannah has been hit in the past by severe weather, hurricanes, in the face of climate change, more frequent and more severe incidents. For those months when there is more risk to supply chain disruption, what procedures are in place for cargo movement resilience and recovery in case of a catastrophic direct hit?
Well, it's a great question. You know, when I got here, we were 12 years ago, we were patting ourselves on the back saying that we hadn't experienced a severe hurricane in Savannah in over 80 years. So because typically the hurricanes will blow across Florida, then they go up the Gulf streams, and we had that natural protective barrier being kind of tucked in that elbow there, and also being upriver. So a lot of that hurricane activity was bypassing us. So we didn't really get hit with anything this year. But last year we did have a hurricane, and the port was closed for a couple days, and then there was one the year prior. And then again, there was nothing before that. So we did have those 2 consecutive years of hurricanes. We do have detailed hurricane procedure manuals. I'm very, very pleased to say that, again, when we were closed 2 years ago because of the hurricane, it was only 2 days of closure. So we really bounced back very, very quickly. So I think climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it, we are keeping our eyes closely focused on that. Obviously, it's we over prepare for it every year purposefully. So I think it's important to always keep that in mind. Thankfully, this year we had no issues like the Gulf and a couple of the other Florida ports had, but this was a good year for us.
Absolutely. I remember that hurricane a couple of years ago, and it seemed like it wasn't a major direct hit for Savannah, but it also, there was very little disruption, and maybe a day or two, but the operation seemed to flow really nicely. I remember that.
Yeah, it was really more of a wind event than a water event for us.
Right. I actually have a question related to the comments about the CapEx. And you said GPA operates as a for-profit organization, and you're really not taking a lot of government subsidies. There was the somewhat smaller investment with the DOT grant, right? So it sounds like there's a large percentage of your reinvestment dollars are coming from your operating capital. Is that an accurate statement?
Absolutely. Everything that we do is financed through our own revenue, Daniel. So that's kind of unique. We have not had to rely on any grants like a number of other port authorities have received in different parts of the country, nor have we had to go to the bond markets. In fact, we retired the last of our bonds about 3 years ago. Now, when we build our new terminal, we are going to have to go to the bond markets again, but our ratings are very, very high. It's not going to be a problem for us, but everything heretofore, to answer your question, has been financed through our own operating revenues. So it's a great position to be in financially. So financially speaking, the GPA has been very strong.
Excellent. And you might have touched on this, but what was the total investment in the Mason Mega Rail?
$225 million.
Wow. Okay. So we have one more question here from, well, I have a couple here. We'll take this one from Netra Fairley, who asks, what are the plans in the Memphis market for customers to be able to connect to the Mega Rail? Will loads originate at the Memphis rail ramp?
Yes, with either CSX or Norfolk Southern at their facilities. So again, they are our rail partners, the 2 East Coast Class 1s. Again, we are very, very fortunate to be in that rare position of having both Class 1s on our terminal, and both being able to service that Memphis market very, very effectively. So again, they kind of go back and forth in terms of who's performing better to and from Memphis. So there is an ebb and flow to it, but overall, they have both continued to really enhance and strengthen their performance to Memphis, because we spent a lot of time with the railroads, and they recognize the importance of the Memphis market to them as well.
Excellent. So, and Trini Williams says, thanks for your outstanding replies, Cliff. You're amazing. Let us know if anything we can do to help your efforts. And with that, they did ask, what can the Memphis community do to help support Savannah's efforts?
What can you help us do? Well, just to help keep spreading the good word. You know, we're you know, a lot of people historically, and myself too, being in the business for over 40 years and spending a lot of time in the Trans-Pacific during my years that I lived in Hong Kong, etc. I just always just in my head that Memphis, the gateway for that was the West Coast in that Trans-Pacific trade. It just, you just automatically thought Southern California, or even, you know, the PNW, or now with Prince Rupert in Vancouver, obviously with the CN service that's coming down. But again, we don't have those congestion issues and those scale issues that those that the Western gateways are having. So our ability to be able to service it fast, fluid, that velocity and fluidity is, and again, that predictability and reliability for the supply chains is so crucial that it's going to get there when it says it's going to get there.
Absolutely. You know, even a few years ago, you know, it seemed like the routing from Asia through Savannah was becoming more and more viable and more competitive against the West Coast. And now we see what's going on in the Pacific trade now, and there's so much volatility, and I think that's probably just going to drive more growth and more sort of, you know, looking at alternative routes through Savannah from Asia for customers.
I think that everyone's aware of what's going on in the Southern California gateways. We certainly don't need to go into it unless there's specific questions, but they're very, very challenged right now because, again, the unprecedented import volumes are just having a crushing effect on the infrastructure there.
Okay. So do we have any last questions for Cliff before we conclude here? We do have one more from Bill Ramia. What is the labor outlook for the next few years in terms of longshore contract?
Well, again, the ILA, like their ILW brothers on the West Coast, re-extended for another six years. So that was, we have four and a half more years where there's not going to be any issues. Now, there has not been a coast-wide strike by the ILA since 1977. So again, the ILA has jurisdiction, waterfront jurisdiction for the U.S. East Coast and Gulf. There hasn't been a coast-wide strike since 1977. There's this agreement is in place for another 4.5 years. Don't see any issues at all. Certainly in our market here, we have a great relationship with the ILA. They are just tremendous partners. In fact, upstairs here today, my counterpart, our chief operating officer, is having meetings with the ILA leadership.
Excellent. That's definitely good news for everyone involved. So thank you for that. And with that, we will conclude here. So Cliff, thank you very much for your time and insight today. It was very informative, and I think, you know, kind of surprising in a really positive way. You know, I think many of us don't often think of Savannah as the first option, you know, but it's definitely a great and burgeoning relationship. And some of these statistics are just staggering. So congrats on that, and hopefully we can continue that success together. And just thanks again, Cliff, for your insight and for your time today. The Memphis World Trade Club would like to extend a complimentary membership to the Memphis World Trade Club effective today through 1 year from today. So thank you for that, and hopefully we can use that networking to continue this burgeoning relationship.
Well, thank you for that, Daniel, and please make the presentation and the video available to all the attendees here today.
We will do that, and want to thank all of our attendees. You know, stay on the lookout. We're going to continue to provide great content just like you saw today. Don't forget about the membership drive that we've extended through this Friday, November 20th. You know, I can tell you from personal experience, there's not a better networking organization. You know, here we are able to network with the Georgia Ports Authority and our many other port partners. And so we just appreciate that. So please consider joining the Memphis World Trade Club. Look out for the scholarship raffle next week. And that'll be a lot of fun. And we had a lot of success with our last scholarship raffle in October. And we actually raised $2,000 for a scholarship for the Memphis East High School T-STEM program. So if we do really well in this raffle, we'll, you know, perhaps be able to give out multiple scholarships in 2020. Who knows? So thank everybody once again. Thank you, Cliff and Michael, and wish you all well. And I wish you and your families a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks. Thank you.
Take care.